how am I going to find a good, stable relationship, have a solid foundation, and I'm sitting here in prison.
The last job that I had was probably right when the economy took a collapse. That means 12 years since I actually had a job.
It was traumatizing. Clicking that "Are you a convicted felon?" button.
All right, guys, we're back with The Branded Felon. I'm Dan Wise.
And I'm Kimmy Park.
And I'm Ryan Park.
And our motto is...
You wouldn't know if I didn't tell you.
Most people come home and then they got to go try to tell a dating person that, oh, by the way, I'm a convicted felon, which I imagine can be tough.
And it's tough. I mean, it's definitely tough on the spouses itself or your significant other, because it's hard to kind of relate that you have one side of the coin where the person is now left holding the bag, having to take care of the family, taking care of the house, the cars, the kids, whatever it is. Then meanwhile, you got the other person going to prison and going through all that stuff.
But a lot of the women had people on the outside, and there was a couple that were wondering, like, how am I going to find a good, stable relationship, have a solid foundation, and I'm sitting here in prison. For me, it was traumatizing. Clicking that "Are you a convicted felon?" button, I automatically thought the worst. I'm not going to get a call.
Did you find yourself applying at jobs that required less skill set?
Yes, I did. Very generic jobs, too. There was one that was very generic posting. I had a great resume because I worked really hard on it, and it looked really good. And I got a phone interview, and I said, when he called me, and I was like, what exactly is this job? And he said, I want you to be an underwriter for an insurance agency. So I'm going to stop you there. And my heart sunk, and I'm like, I have to tell you the truth. And I went to federal prison. Told me that he really appreciated my transparency and my honesty, and that if he could hire me just because of my honesty, he would, but there's no way I can underwrite.
There's not the same type of jobs that you have in like South Florida. Like in South Florida, sales jobs are a dime a dozen. They do nothing but hire felons. So I wasn't even worried. I was like, oh, I'll get a job doing that. But then found out those kind of jobs don't really exist in Eastern Washington. It was hard. If it hadn't been for the prison consulting that kind of took off right out of the gate, I don't know what I would have done in Spokane at that moment.
The last job that I had was probably right when the economy took a collapse. By the time I got home, that means it was 12 years since I actually had a job. I mean, the only job skill that I had, I mean, in engineering. But now 12 years past that, I mean, software's changed a lot. Everything has changed. So I'm like, what am I going to do? And then there was like a depression where I'm like, oh my God, like, what am I going to do with my life when I get out of prison? When I did get home, I was actually pretty lucky. I did get a good job. I'm a service manager. I didn't know anything about the industry. Like, I used to flip cars in the past, kind of on the side. And someone trusted me. They gave me a job as a service advisor. What was, I guess for lack of a better word, beautiful about my life is that in my past, I started to shut down and I lost who I was. And when I got this job, it started growing that back inside of me. I started coming back to life and I started finding who I was again. A good explanation goes a long way.
You probably have a better job now than you ever had before prison.
100%. Yeah. I have a lot of responsibility. I have a lot of employees under me.
Like, what are some things in your day-to-day life that being a felon that you still catch yourself, because we've moved past it for sure, but there's still parts of it that there'll be little haunts here and there.
Maybe specifically the other day, my general manager of our company, so the top dog in the north, came up to me and we were having a conversation. He was talking about school, he was talking about my daughter going to college next year, and he said, well, I have a degree in criminal justice. And my whole demeanor changed.
Did he already know?
He does not know because he's new.
Going through this whole process and, you know, thinking how money came first and having the big house and the big cars, you know, came first and did all that. Now I've learned like none of that matters anymore. I'm not fighting for the cars anymore. I'm not fighting for the house. I'm not fighting for the nice clothes or nice watches like what I used to fight for. I'm happy that we can put food on the table. I'm happy we can keep a roof over our head, being able to come home, being able to spend every night with my wife. Those little things matter so much now in life.
So let's talk about some of the benefits that you found after prison.
I finally saw my true self in the mirror. I figured out how strong I really am and how resilient I am and how much I can overcome. So when the little things come at me day to day, most of the time, I'm not perfect, but most of the time, I take it with a grain of salt and I know that I can overcome that challenge. So I never believed that before prison. I thought I was weak. I thought I was stupid. I had all these different ideas about myself, but getting through it and coming out better on the other side, it's badass. Finally knowing what I'm capable of is pretty cool.
Right now, you definitely know you are a different person.
When I first came home from prison, there was an extreme humble period where I felt great. We were living in Spokane in the apartments. Everything was fantastic. Shelly and I were getting along better than we've ever gotten along. Then we started to kind of fall back in old ways to an extent where it kind of got lazy. And before you knew it, almost back in the same situation, minus going to prison. And it took a real humbling journey, going through some mental health issues. I ran into a substance abuse problem that I never experienced prior to prison. And it wasn't until we moved, basically, like we decided to get out of everywhere and come to Idaho, moving to a house that the house alone is a house that I probably never would have wanted to live in just because of how I thought others would look at it. Something clicked.
Who we thought we were then is not really who we are. And we have to find that inner self. And it's the most humble feeling, happy feeling that you cry, you laugh, you smile, but you are so happy when you go to bed at night now.
What advice would you guys have for somebody that is either getting ready to go into the prison system or a family member getting ready to take somebody out of the prison system?
Somebody going into prison, my biggest advice is just pick yourself up and take it one day at a time, 1 second at a time, minute at a time, like however you need to get through it, just take it. Take your steps, get through each day, and use it as a growth opportunity. I was locked in a room with a murderer for 5 months straight. So I went to reading and journaling and meditation, and I felt a transformation in myself. So that's how I got through it. So if you're about ready to go to prison, just peel yourself up, use any energy, any hope you have, and just know that you will get through it. Coming out of prison's a different story. That was a very overwhelming experience for me. Just keep moving forward, keep the good habits that you create in prison. Believe in yourself, because you can get through it and there are opportunities. And if you believe in yourself enough and have that confidence, you will get an opportunity and you'll move forward.
When you're in prison, make the most of it. I know it's kind of weird to think about this, but it's truly a once-in-a-lifetime experience. It's the one and only time that you're ever going to get to just have time to yourself and read books, learn, walk out of that place being a better you.
Going into the prison system, as you get closer and closer to your release, we all walk the track and talk, like you said, we're going to flip houses. We're going to do all of these billion-dollar ideas. For the average guy, I think it's important to have a very humbling expectation. Most people are going to go through the halfway house first. They got to go through probation. They're going to go through an ankle monitor. And there's limitations to what you can do. So be okay with taking it slow, the one day at a time. When you get out of prison, coming home, you've got responsibilities, you've got relationships, you've got things like alcohol that can get in the way. Make these necessary changes, because to create new habits takes a lot of time. So that's all we got today, I think, guys. You got anything else you want to leave anybody with?
No.
No?
I don't think so.
Well,
great chat.
Great chat. It's like
Great
a
chat.
fireside chat today.
Blah, 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 blah.